Okay, so today we're going to have our first kind of practice at
Oh,
painting something. The way I'd like you to set up here, let me pop this up so you can see. The way I'm going to have you set up your paper. I've actually got my watercolor paper because my paper's a little bit thin. Can you see that I have a little rung of tape around it and I've actually taped it to my table? If you want to tape it to your table or your board, you're welcome to do that if you have watercolor tape. Um, it also, this watercolor is a little floppy because I use the other side for something else. We're going to start with a piece of watercolor, pencil, or watercolor colors. We're probably going to stick to using blues today, like this assignment, at least at first. I still have some printer paper as my testing paper. I've got my water and my brushes, and I've got this I've got this paper towel, which I put my water container on top of so I can, get like sort of wring out some of the water. I also just kind of wanted to remind you as well that this is like this is my, I start with wet tube paint. Here, come on. I start with, what okay. Tube paint, if I can get the tube open. Um, and so my watercolor paint starts out wet and then dries throughout the class. And I'm just refilling this. So this is burnt umber, which I ran out of it. It's interesting. I bought this cheap set to see what the paints would be like. I would highly recommend not using these paints. This is our art alternative. This burnt umber looks a lot like my burnt sienna, but we will use it. Well, we may not use it today, actually. And if you've got like a straight edge or something, if you've got a ruler, you can totally use it to draw your 9 grids. We're going to draw 9 rectangles kind of right on top of each other, but you don't need a ruler. In fact, I can't really find one right now, so I'm going to just use another piece of watercolor paper. And the first thing I'm going to do is sketch in my pencil. See how I'm using this piece of paper as a ruler. I'm going to give myself to you don't have to do what I did. I just didn't go all the way to the end. Kind of dividing, and if you want to, you can use a ruler for this if you're like you want to be very persnickety about it. I don't think it's, normally I'm big on measuring everything. Paula will tell you. But, right, Paula? I'm kind of a measuring Nazi. Oh, God, I shouldn't even use that term now. Um, really, you just want, not like Hollywood squares, you just want nine rectangles so that we can sketch these 9 things. And once you've done that, we're going to look at this, but start by doing that. It should be a nice kind of reflective exercise. If you're feeling a little sluggish or moving slow, this is a great, like I am, like Doyen is, like Joy said she was. This is a good way to kind of move out of that. Once you've done, let me know. You don't have to send it to me, just let me know. Just tell me you're done.
I'm done.
You're done. Christina, Doyen, do I need to wait for you guys?
Almost.
Okay. Let me know when you guys are done so we can go forward. Actually, I'm probably going to also pull this over to.
So that you don't get water all over the.
Actually also start with print my scratch paper, my testing paper, so that we can talk a little bit about values. Let me know when you guys are ready. Where's my beautiful pen? There it is. No. Ready? All right, let's do it. There's my favorite brush. So you might have heard me use the term values in watercolor or in art in general. Values means the lightness or darkness of any color. So if you're using one color, right, that is dark. And if I add a little water to it, a little bit more paint, that's medium. And then if I add more water to it, that's light. Can you see it? We might call this 1, 2, and 3, or we might call this just light, medium, and dark. These different gradations are different values. So values is just the lightness or darkness of any, right? You probably know this, Dorian, because we did this in drawing last year, although we talked about it in the context of drawing, pencil drawing, right? Like not with a brush. So you may want to practice with blue, because you can see our exercises in blue. Trying to create with your different blues a light, a medium, and a dark, or a dark. It's easier to do actually dark, medium, and light. Sometimes I have to go back in and do it with all your blues. The way I'm doing it here, I'm testing. I have 4 blues. Every time I want to make my brush lighter, my thing lighter, I dip it in water again. Here's my fun flashy color for last, turquoise. It's almost green. So I'm just doing this on testing paper. I'm not doing this on my actual paper because I want you to practice this idea of 1, 2, and 3, dark, medium, and light. How do you make things right? And by the way, the lightest parts of these have no paint at all on them. None at all. So there are, when we start to move to these, you're going to see there's some light. That's absolutely white. That means there's just no paint on it. So actually there's 4 values because there's this one too. Right? That's like no paint is the lightest value. Value is hugely important in painting and drawing because value is the only way we can show depth, right? When we're trying to showcase something, depending on what we're trying to emphasize, we make one part of it light and we make the other parts of it a different value, like dark or medium, to showcase those values. And in this particular exercise, which is really, really interesting, this is the same scene done 9 different ways, emphasizing different parts of the composition. And basically the rule is if you're trying to emphasize the sky, like in these 3, right? This is all an emphasis of the sky. you use one value in the area you're not trying to emphasize, and you use two values in the area you are trying to emphasize, right? So there's a little value shift. So in here, it's is the dark is the bottom value, and the sky is light and medium. Here, medium is the bottom value, and the sky is light and dark. And here, the the bottom is light, and this is medium and dark. So it's three different ways of doing the same thing when you're shifting the value differences around. That makes sense to people? Does that seem logical? Yeah, okay. So your job today, we're going to start. I'm going to do it first, and then I'm going to have you guys try it. The first row. Let's do it like that. So my first row, I can see, what color? I guess I'm going to use ultramarine blue. That's my favorite blue. So I'm going to use a pretty heavy blue. See how I'm kind of outlining? I'm really copying this. You're making yours bigger than these. I'm not using my pencil. I want you to practice just using the brush to do the drawing. And I'm going dry on dry. After our experience last week with wet on wet and wet on dry, I've decided for things this small with this much detail, you're going to want to go as we want more control, so we're going to go dry on dry. And wait till I finish this before you start. I will do the first one and then you can do it. Observe, I mean, unless you've already done it. So observe here that all of these areas that are white, you need to leave white. And see how I've done a very watery. I might need to go in and add a little bit more water, but my clouds here should express light and dark. So you see how I left and see how big mine is? Mine's pretty big. So you should make yours. You want to really fill up this whole 9 by 12 inch sheet. Otherwise, or whatever you're using, you want to be able to, you might have to use, if you're using something smaller, you might have to use 2 sheets. So there's your 1, right? Your dark value. And so the sky is, because the bottom is dark, you're going to want to do 2 and then no color at all for the light, the white area. So you need to be able to, and if you need to, you might have to go over it again when it dries to darken this a little bit. That might be something you have to do. Can you guys see this okay? Can you see everything here well enough? I can't hear you, honey, doing because you've got your mutie on.
I said, yeah.
Got it. Okay. So
You did or didn't use a pencil to kind of outline it?
I did not. Were you
Okay.
were you watching me?
I was.
I'm just giving you a hard time. I did not.
Okay.
I want you to practice using the brush. And that's okay if this is awkward. Be careful to leave your white spaces white with no paint on them.
Okay.
When you think you've got it, we'll do this first row together, and then I might have you just take a stab at the second row on your own. So we're doing two things. You're practicing kind of brush control. You're practicing drawing with a brush, and you're practicing your dark and your medium. Really, you're just doing dark and medium. We're not drawing the light. We're not even doing the light. The light is just white. And look at the difference. It really does create a very dramatically different sky. What I can also do, I think I want you to see these first three, so I want everything out here. But after that, I'm going to put this up in the big screen so that you guys can see it really well. And let's see how you do on the rest of them. And notice it is the same scene. So the idea is this is the same scene, but you're emphasizing different things. So we can sort of see the outline of the trees and the hills, but we can't really see much. And once my painting dries, I can go in with more, I can darken. I can make my darks darker. Right, I waited until this got dark before I went and darkened this another layer. You can decide you want to do that. I also sent this across the thread. So if you have your phone open, you can actually open the exercise is actually up close on the thread. So if you're struggling to see it on the screen here, you can open up the WhatsApp thread and it'll be right there. It's the first thing you'll see. And if you mess it up the first time, that's okay. Create another square, triangle, or sorry, triangle, square, triangle, rectangle, and start again. Does anybody want me to go on to do the second one? Are you still working on the first one? This is slow roll. I don't have to go fast. So
Still working on the first one.
still working on the first one. Okay. Now my blue is different than this blue. If you had Prussian blue, I would have Prussian blue around somewhere. You can play, you know what? I'm gonna let you play around with your different blues. If you want to switch out blues, do a different blue the next time, you're totally welcome to, but you should probably stick with one, just one color. It's easier. Oh, Payne's great. Yeah, it's Prussian blue. Here's Prussian blue. Put Prussian blue over here, which is a lovely color, fantastic color. And I will. This is Prussian blue. Ooh, so dramatic. So dramatic. Prussian. Is this feeling hard? Medium, easy?
It's feeling a little hard,
Yeah.
but I wonder
Is-
if that's because of the size of my brush based on the size of the square I'm working in.
What's the size of your brush versus the size of your square?
So this is the brush I'm using.
That's a good brush. That's a
Okay.
good brush. But maybe you notice I made my square bigger than this one.
Yeah.
So that's a good brush. I know it feels awkward, but trust me, if you use a little tiny brush like this, let's see, I don't even have them around. I'm like, I'm like, Get those out of here. They're not of any use to me. Here, hold on. Let me look and see if I can find little tiny brush. Where are you, little tiny brushes? Wow. How many of my watercolors? Wait, hang on. Here we go. Here's a little tiny brush. Like here's a little tiny brush, right? Compared to my favorite 25, my expensive brush. Tiny, right? But if I go with my tiny brush, I end up having lots of extra marks that I have to clean up. I can't sweep around. I can't do as much sweeping motions.
This is very flexible, this one is.
Yeah, big brushes are where it's at. And I tell you that because nobody wants to use a big brush. You think that you can control things with a small brush, but what you'll learn after a while is a big brush in like 2 strokes can cover this area in 2 strokes, maybe 3 strokes or 4 strokes, but like very few strokes, whereas a little brush, you're just sawing away at it. And with watercolor, every time you make a move on the paper, you leave a mark. And you want to leave as few marks as possible. Unintended marks. You don't want the unintended marks. All right, I'm going to demonstrate the second one. So whatever you're doing, stop. The next one is going to be medium. So I'm testing here to make sure I've got medium. And once again, so it's not as dark as this one. See how I'm kind of tracing the outline? I'm going back in and grabbing a little bit more color. Yeah, this medium is a lot like that medium, so it kind of works. I can make that darker if I want to. And then now I have to be really careful. It requires me to do dark here, but there's little light spaces in between. And there's also dark areas that touch my medium. If I touch my medium right now with my dark area, it's gonna bleed in, right? So I have to wait for this to dry. I can work this area. Kind of up here. And this is a very different feel. Oh yeah, look, see, whoops, accidentally, I don't want to, so I'm waiting just a little bit. And I'm kind of trying to imitate the strokes that I see. Just doing my best. There we go. Now I think I can kind of come in. That's number 2. So this is the first time I've actually asked you to try and repeat something by looking at it, right? By looking at it and trying to repeat the strokes. So don't worry if it takes a little while to figure it out. And don't worry if you need another sheet of paper, you need to do it twice or 3 times even. I'm really okay with that. So this is dark value, so light and medium is in the sky. This is medium value, so dark and light is in the sky. You're just sort of practicing learning how to push the paint around. And if you feel like you don't know how to do that, that's because the only way to know how to do that, I can't tell you how to do that. Besides like demoing it, you have to figure out with your brush how to make those marks. So that's the tricky part. And that's why it feels hard. And that's why we do this, where it's very low stakes. Right? Where it's more about the process than it is about the finished product. I will be right back, you guys. You might find that your paint is bleeding a little bit more than you like. You can hold your blanket here, your, your blankie, and soak up a little bit. See if once you lay something down, sometimes you have a little time to soak it up with your blankie. You may not be able to get all of it off, but you can see you can get some of it off. Sometimes that helps. Watercolor is really hard, huh? It's hard. It's a extremely hard medium to manipulate. It's the hardest. I don't know why everybody starts with it when they start painting. I think because they can have access to it and it feels like the materials feel easier. But watercolor is extremely hard. So it's okay if you're like feel like you're flailing with that brush. And if you mess up a square or a rectangle, just give yourself another rectangle and try again. Try to get 3 in a row though. The last one I will also demonstrate. So you might want to stop what you're doing for a minute. Yeah, I'm going to start the last one. So the last one, of course, I'm not going to paint the bottom. And I'm going kind of light on the top. A fairly watered down color. See how I'm using the corner of my brush a lot. So, Dorian, you have this kind of flat brush like I do. Can you see I'm like, instead of using this flat part, I'm using the tip and just tapping around.
Yeah.
That helps a lot. There we are. And then I'm going to go a little bit heavier, but I want to be careful here because I know these need to meet, but I don't want them to kind of bleed into each other too much. This is the hardest one to control, right? Because there's a dark and it's a little bit darker here. Yeah, that's kind of it. Maybe even more dark here. See how I'm kind of pushing? Oops, I didn't want that there. So there we go. pulling that off. See how I was able to pull off that extra dark? And I might even kind of slightly, not too much, because you want your medium to stand out around your dark. All right, so those are the three. Would you like me, do you want to look at mine or do you want to have me put this up on the big computer screen? Doesn't matter? Okay, then I'll just leave it the way it is. And when you think you've got three that do this, show them to me. And if you mess it up, it's okay. Try it again. Draw a new rectangle and try it again. Get a new sheet of paper. The next ones are trickier because there's more like with the emphasis on the trees in the middle, there's a little bit more shaping you've got to do. How's it feel this year, Paula? Good?
Yeah, it's better this year.
Yeah, it always is. After you've done it for a year, then you're like, it's almost like you need to repeat beginning everything after you've done it for a year, just so that you understand what you didn't know at the beginning when you tried to do it. It's one of those things. I actually love the cyclical learning cycle of art. Um, It is really fantastic how one can keep returning to the same things. It's
I-
kind of mind-blowing, really.
The last time I couldn't even do it with the brush. I think I sketched it with my pen. I couldn't even. And now
I remember everybody had a lot of trouble with that. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Christina and Doane, I hope that makes you feel better.
yeah.
They did this a lot. But also understand that even as you're doing it or struggling with it or doing with it or struggling with it, this is art. Like this is what art feels like and doing art feels like. You're trying, you're failing, you're trying, you're succeeding, you're trying a little harder, then you try a little bit more, then you fail a little bit more, then you fail, you know, you're fail. You really don't know. Um, there's no sort of short way through this.
And you learn something with every mistake you make.
You do. Yeah, you're like, I'm never gonna do that again. When you think you have the three, send me pictures, one at a time or all in a row. Whatever works. Oh, there it is. Here's my tiny brush. It fell down.
Mm. Mm.
You guys keeping your spirits up?
Yeah.
Good. For Dwayne and Christina, it's a little worse because they have to cover this bullshit.
Yeah.
It sucks.
Mm.
It
Well,
sucks to have to pay attention, even though we need you to pay attention.
I didn't
Um,
even watch it. I couldn't even watch it.
can you imagine having to watch it and cover it and
Oh,
write about it?
it's gotta be
Or it's
hard.
like, no, it's terrible. These guys all have to, all these journalists have to do that. All the journalists on this call, that's what they do. They have to keep on watching.
Wow.
Yeah.
How do
And
you?
if they didn't, we would be really fucked. We
Yeah,
would be
that's
really
true.
screwed. So thank you guys for what you do. Here, relax with some really hard watercolor drawings.
Yeah, that's how you relax.
Here, how's how you relax?
Oh, I know.
Funny, somebody said to me on the call the other day, they were talking about oh yes, we were talking about looters in LA dressing up like firemen
Oh yeah,
and
my
going
brother.
in, right? And like, and I was like, that is so fucking terrible. And the woman on the call said, oh, geez, Leah, you should see it. I mean, this is what we have to cover all the time. I mean, this is what it's like for our job. And I'm like, I know I did your job for 10 years. I absolutely know how terrible it is to like have to, how terrible people could be. But
When I was in
also great.
when I was in Palm Springs, you know, all of my brother's friends either had friends in LA or moved from LA, and they had told me that story about the people coming in as firefighters after they
Yep,
evacuated.
it
And
happened.
they took everything. It's
Yep,
horrible.
it happened. It happened.
And then there was this
Why do
one,
they get double insurance?
oh,
Fire and,
oh, my
theft.
my mom is commenting.
Yes.
She brought me some emergency art supplies from her elementary school.
Oh, that's
It's
nice.
nice. There you go. All you need is blue today. So
Oh.
you're not in such bad shape, right? All you need is blue. Any blue.
Yeah, but then there was this one guy in Pacific Palisades. He stayed and defended his home and all his neighbors' homes.
I
And
saw that. That guy, Rollo, Reuters covered that guy. Yeah,
yeah,
he was amazing.
Amazing.
yeah.
I remember thinking, you know, he's a really old man, but he's kind of hot. I was like, when I was watching him talk, I was like, you are smoking hot, dude. That's the sexiest thing I have ever heard.
Yeah, if he's not married, he's probably getting loads of dates right now.
Did you see him? I mean, you saw the interview with him, right? He's
Yeah,
gorgeous.
I couldn't.
He's a gorgeous old man.
All that California sunshine. I don't know.
Must be. I mean, no, he's just got the balls to like defend his territory. Are you
Yeah.
guys ready to show me your dark, medium, and light tree line with the two skies? With the skies? Am I ready to see that yet?
I sent mine across.
Oh, let me see.
Paintball.
Okay.
So, I mean, I think it looks really good compared to